All right, so today we are diving deep into the mind of David Goggins. We're going to decode the raw, unfiltered philosophy of a guy who went from being a statistic in the making to, well, one of the toughest human beings on the planet. And let me be clear, this is not about motivation. Goggins will be the first to tell you that motivation is crap. This is about forging a mind that is basically armored against quitting. So yeah, let's get uncomfortable. And this quote right here, this is the core problem Goggins throws in our faces from page one. He actually frames his whole book like a military mission briefing. And this is situation number one. His whole point is that we are all basically addicted to comfort. We're living in denial and we have absolutely no idea what we're really capable of. And that brings us to his most famous idea, the 40% rule. Now, really think about this for a second. When your mind is screaming at you to stop, when you feel like you've got absolutely nothing left in the tank, Goggins says you've only tapped into about 40% of what you can actually do. Just think about that. That means there's a whole other 60% of untapped potential just sitting there, a reserve that most of us never, ever touch. So how in the world does someone even get to a place where they believe something like that? Well, to really get Goggins' mindset, you have to understand the absolutely brutal reality he was born into. As he puts it himself, life dealt him a really, really bad hand. You know, on the surface, his family looked like they were living the American dream. They had this beautiful home on a street literally named Paradise Road in an affluent part of New York. Nice cars, tailored suits, the perfect picture. But Goggins has this great line. He says that glossy surfaces often reflect more than they actually reveal. Because the reality behind closed doors, it was a complete nightmare. And the source of all this hell was his own father, Toughness Goggins. To the public, he was this charming, successful businessman. But at home, he was a monster who subjected David and his mother to constant, brutal physical and mental abuse. Honestly, his entire childhood was just defined by fear. From the time he was just 6 years old, he was forced to work all night, every night, at his father's skating rink, Skateland. He talks about being so exhausted he couldn't even function in school the next day, and having to get strategic about hiding the bruises from his father's beatings. This wasn't a childhood, it was just a constant state of survival. So, after he and his mom finally escaped that life, Goggins found himself in his early 20s, overweight, depressed, and just failing at everything. And he had this realization that to change his life, he had to stop being a victim of his past. He had to take radical ownership. And that is what led him to create his very first tool for fighting back. And this is his first weapon, the accountability mirror. Now look at these steps. This is not some self-love, feel-good exercise. This is about brutal, gut-wrenching honesty. You get raw and real. You write down the unfiltered truth on Post-it notes. Things like, you're fat, you're lazy, you're wasting your potential. And then you plaster those notes all over your mirror so you're forced to confront that reality every single day. It's about being cruelly honest with yourself to spark a real change. And here's the crucial mental shift. Goggins believes that acknowledging your weaknesses, your excuses, your failures, without any sugarcoating, is the only way to transform them. That negativity isn't something you run from. He says it's the actual jet fuel you need to get your ass in gear. Okay, so once he took accountability, the next step was to build resilience. Goggins basically started a lifelong mission to forge what he calls a calloused mind. And to do that, he intentionally sought out the world's most difficult crucibles to build an arsenal of mental weapons he could use against his own inner weakness. And you can really see the fundamental shift he made right here. He had to absolutely kill the victim inside him. You know, that voice that blames the world, looks for the easy way out, and runs from anything that hurts. He replaced it with this accountable mindset that takes ownership of everything and actively seeks out discomfort, using pain as a tool for growth. One of his most famous mental tools is called the cookie jar. The idea is this. When he's deep in the suck, in the middle of a 100-mile race or Navy SEAL Hell Week, and his mind is begging him to quit, he mentally reaches into this cookie jar that's filled with every single past victory he's ever had. It's his way of reminding his own brain with cold, hard evidence that he's been through hell before and survived. And just look at the cookies in his jar. I mean, we're talking about losing over 100 pounds in less than 3 months just to qualify for the SEALs. We're talking about enduring not 1, not 2, but 3 hell weeks in a single year. Running 100-mile ultramarathons on broken feet. Each one of these is proof to himself that he's capable of so much more that his mind is telling him in that moment of pain.
All right, this one is pure, uncut Goggins. Taking souls is all about achieving such an insane level of excellence that you completely demoralize anyone who ever doubted you, whether that's a boss, a coach, or some competitor. It's not just about meeting the standard. It's about working so ridiculously hard that you completely obliterate it, leaving them just in awe of your work ethic.
And this is the core practice of what he calls callousing the mind. Think about it. Just like your hands get calluses from lifting weights, your mind gets tougher from enduring hardship. So Goggins would intentionally do things like go for a run when it was pouring rain or snowing, not in spite of the bad weather, but because of it. He literally trained his brain to embrace the suck. So what's the end goal of all this? A trophy? A nice quiet retirement? For Goggins, the answer is neither. He lives by this philosophy that this isn't about one single victory. It's a continuous, never-ending process of pushing his limits forever. This quote right here gets to the absolute heart of his entire philosophy. It's a direct challenge to that little governor in our brains that tells us we're tired and it's time to stop. Goggins argues that we have to completely redefine what done actually means, pushing it way, way beyond our comfortable perceived limits. And after laying all of this out, Goggins basically turns the question back on us. I mean, seriously, in light of the 40% rule, in light of how much we all seek comfort, do any of us really know what we're truly capable of? He's convinced that most of us have absolutely no idea. You see, in the end, Can't Hurt Me isn't really presented as a self-help book. It's a warning order. It's a mission briefing for your own life, issued directly from a retired Navy SEAL, basically commanding you to unshackle your mind and find out who you really are. And he leaves us with this final, provocative challenge. The war isn't against your boss or your circumstances or your past. The real war, the real battle, is against the softness and the limits you've placed on yourself. So the only question that really matters is, where are you going to begin?